She had a happy and blissful family with a loving husband and 2 lively and playful children. But in an instant, everything turned to nothing. Megan stepped out of the bathroom and asked,
"All right, what do you want for lunches today?"
She received no response from her husband and children. Thinking it was a joke, she searched every corner of the house but couldn't find them. Megan started to feel anxious. When she returned to the room, she noticed the time on the alarm clock had not changed and all the furniture in the house had disappeared. The next moment, she woke up in the hospital and her parents rushed to her side. Concerned for her children and husband, Megan frantically asked about them.
"Where's Thomas?"
The parents felt very confused after hearing it.
Who's Thomas?
My husband.
Megan, you're not married.
My kids, where are they?
Kids?
Yes. Isabel and Dylan, where are they?
Megan, listen to us. You are not married and you don't have any children.
Hearing this, Megan's emotions went haywire. The doctor told Megan's parents that Megan likely experienced memory confusion due to hitting her head during the car accident. It turned out that on a rainy night just a week ago, Megan had an accident while driving and had been in a coma until now. With the doctor's permission, Megan was brought back home. To find out the truth, she called her best friend and went to the place in her memory where she had lived with her husband. However, the building was under construction, as if telling her that everything before was just her dream. At that moment, Megan fully realized the reality. After 2 months of counseling with a psychologist, she finally recovered and accepted that her supposed happy family was just an illusion caused by the accident. Just as Megan was about to fully believe that her previous happy life was merely a realistic dream, an unexpected event occurred. While applying for a job as a photography assistant, she saw her husband from her so-called vision.
Hey, you must be the temp. Thomas.
It's you.
Yes, Thomas.
Megan was in shock, frozen in place. Then she realized her rudeness and quickly introduced herself. She tried hard to suppress her inner excitement and appeared to listen carefully to Thomas as he talked about the job. However, her eyes were fixed on his face, trying to confirm if the man before her was indeed her former husband.
Do you know me?
Sorry, no, I don't think so.
The awkward moment was interrupted by a phone call. Megan discreetly took out her phone, intending to take a photo of him to show her parents as an explanation, but she got caught in the act. Megan could only walk up to the small potted plant and pretend as if she had just been taking a photo of the plant. After work, Megan met with her friend and told her everything she had experienced. However, the idea of traveling through time and parallel worlds was just too absurd. To prove what she was saying was true, she took out a list that detailed the hobbies and daily habits of another world's Thomas. The Thomas she had encountered had the exact same hobbies and habits as her own Thomas. Despite her friend thinking that Megan's illness had not yet improved, Megan was completely convinced that Thomas was her husband. With this in mind, Megan decided to resume pursuing Thomas, but before she could put her plans into action, a stranger arrived at the studio claiming to be Thomas's girlfriend. This disappointed Megan, but she quickly adjusted her mindset. Even if she couldn't be with Thomas, seeing him happy with his loved one might not be such a bad thing after all. As an assistant, Megan always brought Thomas a hot drink after he finished work. Thomas was intrigued by the fact that he had a picky taste, yet Megan always brought him the beverage he liked. Initially, some of Megan's strange behaviors made Thomas consider firing her. However, as they spent more time together, Thomas realized that Megan seemed to understand him very well, and they worked together seamlessly. When children didn't cooperate during photo shoots, Megan would perform magic tricks with toys to make them happy. When they went outdoors for shoots, she always had useful suggestions for Thomas. With the smooth process of assisting with shoots, she began to be valued more and more. Thomas praised Megan, saying she had a natural talent for photography. He believed that if she continued to develop her skills, she could become an excellent photographer. The two happily returned to the studio where Megan's friend was waiting for her after her shift. This was the first time her friend had seen Thomas.
Wow, when you dream good.
Upon hearing someone mention it was all a dream again, Megan did not argue. This was also a shift in her mindset. She no longer tried to prove anything or force herself to live the kind of life she had in her dreams. Simply being able to accompany Thomas as a colleague every day already made Megan satisfied. However, one early morning, Thomas, who had come to the studio to pick up something, received some terrible news. His mother had passed away. In the morning, when Megan went to work, she found the studio doors locked. After inquiring, she learned about the situation. She started blaming herself because in that world, Thomas had once told her that his mother had passed away suddenly due to an illness. Following the timeline of this world, if she had told Thomas about this sooner, perhaps she could have prevented it all from happening. After being consoled by her friend for a long 2 hours, Megan's feelings of guilt reduced slightly. A few days later, Thomas returned to work. Even though the studio had been closed for a few days, thanks to Megan's efforts, not much work had been delayed.
How was the funeral?
It's fine. Nice, I guess.
I'm really sorry for what you and your dad had to go through.
Thank you.
Thomas could truly see the sadness in Megan's eyes. His heart was filled with gratitude. In comparison, this was what his girlfriend said.
You know, in many cultures, death is a celebration of life.
Every word of hers felt like salt on Thomas's wound. As the waiter approached to take their order, he could no longer bear it. Politely said sorry, he left. A crack appeared in their relationship. In order to help Thomas bounce back, Megan invited him to visit the aquarium. Thomas initially wanted to decline, but seeing the disappointment on Megan's face, he ultimately couldn't refuse her. After wandering through the aquarium, the two sat down on a bench. Megan began to tell a story.
I had a dear friend. He lost his mom, suddenly like you. It was before I met him, and it always bothered him how things could change overnight. But I think I finally understand that he just missed her.
The he in Megan's words naturally referred to her husband in the alternate world. The floodgates of conversation were opened between them. They talked endlessly about their past. Thomas even took Megan home to visit his father. After a few moments of small talk, Megan quickly bonded with his father. They discussed Thomas's childhood and the heavy atmosphere the family had after his mother passed away. Due to Megan's presence, a change occurred and their relationship gradually grew closer. Under Thomas's influence, Megan began to re-engage with photography. Their life could have continued like this indefinitely, but one day, when they returned from work, Megan's backpack accidentally fell to the ground. Thomas found a note inside on which all his interests, hobbies, and daily habits were written. By the time Megan realized and took the note from him, it was too late. Thomas questioned how Megan knew everything about him. Megan wanted to explain she was aware that no one would believe her words, but she didn't want to lie to Thomas.
I know all this about you because we were married. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I do.
Megan. Maybe we should call someone for you.
You and I, we had this beautiful life together and a beautiful house and 2 beautiful children. I'm not explaining this very well.
Thomas didn't want to hear anymore. He believed it was all lies. He finally understood why being with Megan had been so enjoyable. It wasn't because of fate or destiny guiding them, but because Megan was a lunatic and he had already been thoroughly investigated. No matter how Megan explained, this absurd story clearly wouldn't be convincing. Megan left. Thomas checked information about Megan on the computer, woman in coma after horrific. Now, he was even more convinced that Megan had mental problems. However, it was this person with mental problems who had taught him the importance of happiness in companionship. Thomas found his girlfriend and mentioned that he wanted to break up. When she asked if it was because of Megan, he denied it and explained that he had already fired Megan. Breaking up with his girlfriend was due to their deteriorated relationship. They were no longer happy together, and the relationship had turned into something that needed to be maintained. His girlfriend, instead of being upset, looked relieved. She had also realized the issues but had refrained from mentioning them to avoid harming Thomas. She had the opportunity to go abroad for a field visit and was planning to break up with Thomas when they met that day. Thomas felt relieved upon hearing this. He didn't want to hurt her either. One day, Thomas suddenly found a photo on his computer. Remembering what Megan had said earlier, there's a portrait that hangs in our house of me in front of that exact same barn. He realized that the photo had been secretly taken by him when they were out working. How did Megan know he had taken this photo? At that moment, a ridiculous idea emerged. Could parallel worlds really exist? Thomas went to Megan's house, but no one was there. But Megan's mother returned at that moment. She had noticed her daughter's emotional changes during this time and understood it was because of this man in front of her. The mother smiled slightly and told Thomas about Megan's whereabouts. Thomas went to the aquarium where they had first met. He took out a photo and talked about why he believed in her. He knew everything was absurd, unreal, but he didn't care because he saw the dedicated and passionate Megan and he had fallen in love with that Megan. Before Thomas could finish his words, Megan kissed him. There was no need for explanation. After all, Megan's desire to marry him again never faded. A year later, the family from her memories returned with the child now growing inside her. And the movie ended here.